And now my question is, Mr. President, it's not accidental that I have this placard, this plate. I will not ask about public utilities or anything else. I'm after support measures for young families. Myself and my fiancée have been together 8 years, and I was born into a family of a priest, and we want to have children, but I cannot afford children. If I borrow a mortgage now to buy a one-room flat in Yekaterinburg, I'll have to pay 50,000 rubles per month for 30 years. Mr. President, is there an opportunity to help and support the young ones so that these amounts of money should not go to banks, but should be invested into our future and our kids?
As a young man, 23 years old, I can tell you for sure this is going to be the greatest stimulus that will help push our demographic trends upwards. Well, I can see that you've been with your fiancé for 8 years, so you started dating when you were 15? Oh, that's great. Good for you. You know, in the Caucasus, among the peoples who live there, they've got very good traditions. They marry out their children when they're still in a very tender age, and I think we should all follow the example. You know, I know Ramzan Kadyrov. He's got a big family, many children, many of them are marrying, both young men and young girls. I asked him about that. He said this is tradition in the Caucasus, though that's great. Well, as for your particular case, I've said that there's a whole architecture of support measures that has been set up for families with children. It applies to families of students. I'm not going to recount all the measures because that would take too long. And I've spoken about that. And it's impossible, you know, to wait ad infinitum for material conditions to improve, for you to get education. Well, you can wait forever. It's best not to postpone for too long having children, because this is part of our life, and we've got to go through this life because, you know, giving birth to new generations, and I think you are also a believer, so I would tell you that this is probably the mission entrusted to us by God, and we'll certainly keep up these support measures despite certain tensions related to the need to rebalance the budget. We have still managed to allocate money for family mortgage. And, you know, there are some places, some spots across the country where the mortgage can be drawn out not at 6%, but 2%. And, you know, when you are together with someone you love, it does not mean where you live. It's not going to be, you know, just a small hut. It's got to be a small apartment or a bigger apartment, but in a region where the interest payments on the mortgage are 2%, not 6%. You've got to have a look at all of that. What does your fiancée do? She's starting 3rd year, and I'm graduating from the journalism department. Well, yes, I've just said that there are several measures of support for student families. Just have a look at those. But, you know, when young man thinks you have to buy this and that, you have to live somewhere, there are many issues to be addressed, but best not to postpone such fundamental matter as making family and having children. It's that sector, you know, I see Zvezda. Is it okay, Mr. President? Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, Konstantin Kokoveshnikov, Zvezda TV. You've spoken about attempts at crushing Russia's economy, but I can't help asking about the unmanned vessels strikes by Ukrainians against certain vessels, apart from critical energy infrastructure, there are attempts to strike Russia's export vessels. Several people have spoken up on that, in particular, leader of Turkey, President Erdogan, a woman sitting next to me. She spoke about that, just a couple of days ago. There was a strike against a vessel in the Black Sea, in the Mediterranean Sea. There were several victims, several people dead. And should there be a blockade of the Kaliningrad region, if that occurs to someone in Europe, what's going to be done? Well, let's start with the last part of your question. Let's hope this will not happen. But if similar threats arise, we will eliminate those threats, and everyone needs to understand that such actions will simply bring about never before to seen escalation that would escalate this conflict to an unprecedented level and expand it to a large-scale military conflict. Everyone needs to understand that. As far as strikes against our civilian infrastructure are concerned, you represented a media that deals with the military. You are well aware that these strikes are something we respond to, carrying out strikes that, in terms of their scale and power, are simply far superior to what the Kiev authorities are doing. But as far as damages are concerned to civilian infrastructure, to non-competence, well, that is something that is deserving of strictest condemnation, and will always respond. We are receiving news that another oil tanker has been attacked in the Mediterranean. Yes, they're pursuing some utilitarian purposes. They want to raise insurance premiums, but this will not bring about the result they are desirous of. This is not going to disrupt the supplies. This would only create additional threats, and Russia is certainly going to respond. Bashkiria, yeah, sure, go ahead. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for this opportunity to ask you a question. First, let me give you the greetings from the population of our republic. And on behalf of Bashkortostan, we would like to thank you for the attention you are paying to Bashkortostan, to our region. Right now, Tajikistan is building a Russia-Tajik industrial park. On the Russian side, this project is operated by Bashkortostan. So my question is as follows. What other friendly nations can give venue to similar projects where Bashkortostan's example can prove to be useful? Thank you. Well, we've been building a similar infrastructure in Egypt for some time. In the Nile area, there's a very good site there. And our colleagues from the Ministry of Trade and Industry and our counterparts in Egypt are paying a great deal of attention to developing this site. I think this is something that should bring about very good and positive economic results both for Russia and for Egypt. There's a number of other projects we're contemplating in other partner nations. Your example will certainly, your experience will certainly be used. I do not know what is the current state of this industrial park in Tajikistan, but I'm confident that given its well-developed technological and industrial base, Bashkortostan is going to play a pivotal role and will achieve all the tasks that are set before themselves. And I'll ask the government to provide you with the requisite support should that prove to be necessary. Yes. Please, well, if there's too much noise, we'll have to bring this to an end because it's not going to be possible to communicate with one another. Kokoshnik. Okay, let's see what this Kokoshnik is about. Kokoshnik is something women wear. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Sorry, I'm very, very nervous. I didn't know I would. You know, there's a young man with this placard which says Kokoshnik, but you are wearing one, so yes, women first. I would like to pick up where my colleague, the 13-year colleague from the first row, has asked. This is about you driving through Moscow without any external size, as it were. So do you think Moscow has been beautified? Has it become better? You know, because many roads are being built. The Moscow diameter has been built. So do you think there are fewer traffic jams? And secondly, what's going to happen to cars in the future? Will we all have to change our cars for Russian-built cars? You know, I've been saving up for foreign brands. I've spent 5 years, and right now, after the utility fee has been introduced, I will have to spend another 5 or 6 years to save some money for a new car. So what do you think? Let's start with the utility fee. Well, let's be upfront what this is about. The increase of the utility fee, as well as rising prices. Well, we're certainly talking about strong cars of more than 160 horsepower. The government fully understands that. It mostly concerns citizens with the middle level or very high level of income in big cities, most of all. And it's clear, and we've got to be clear about that right now. This is due to the attempt by the finance ministry to secure another source of income for achieving a very noble, lofty task, that is technological development, technological sovereignty, and it certainly helps our car industry. You said, well, probably foreign cars are becoming increasingly expensive. Probably we should contemplate buying Russian cars. Well, I can't help recommending some Russian car. It would be very strange for me to suggest to you that you should buy something built abroad. But I do hope this measure is not going to stay in effect forever, and that the choice our citizens have access to will get wider, either as our incomes grow or as the fiscal burden decreases. Moscow, well, yes, we're all proud of Moscow, and rightly so. Sergei Sobyanin is demonstrating huge results. Well, I think it's 12 million people who live here permanently, plus another 3 million of those who visit Moscow on a regular basis because they work here. So 15 million people, that's what Moscow is home to on a daily basis. And of course, the issue of transport, this is a task that has been addressed in a systemic manner. It applies to underground, to roads, to conjunctions. On the whole, Sobyanin's team is succeeding in addressing the tasks in this field. Of course, there are some issues that still persist, and when I drive across Moscow, I say that, you know, I ride without a motorcade. Well, that doesn't mean that, you know, there is no siren, but sometimes we turn off those sirens before work and after. You know, of course, there's still a huge flow of cars, especially at the center of Moscow. There is a great number of cars driving across Moscow's streets. That means that we should not rest on our laurels. A lot has been done, but we have to keep this issue under constant control. Mr. President, we've spoken about those who are suffering from diabetes. Since there's no communication, it's impossible to surveil the level of sugar in the blood, but there is also a problem with medicines. Yes, I've seen that. This is but a fraction of what we have selected. There are people who suffer from cancer, from kidney failure, or high blood pressure, epilepsy. So this is not the exhaustive list. Dmitry Odstavnik from Sverdlovsk region. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Dmitry Odstavnik, city of Krasnotulinsk. Right now, no more preferential deliveries of medicines are carried out in Krasnotulinsk. This has been a regular occurrence. Since October, the clinics explained to us that they've run out of funding. As Chernomyrdin used to say, there's never been anything like this before, and there we are again. So I'd like to ask you to give instructions to the officials to provide our citizens with medicines under the special preferential program. Yes, indeed, there are many messages like that. I read them before coming here yesterday and the day before yesterday, and I spoke to the government and to the relevant ministries, and they assured me that everything that is within the remit of the federal ministries and the medical insurance system, well, all of the funds have been wired to the regions. There have been no delays whatsoever, whereas you're asking me this question, and I've certainly seen similar messages. Dmitry Peskov has given me a whole pile of such things. So this is about how this is organized on the ground in the regions of Russia. This is about the logistics. This is about timely decisions that are required to enter into contracts on the delivery and on the distribution of these medicines throughout the networks of pharmacies. But I can promise you that we will have a look into what is happening over there in Krasnotulinsk. I do hope this issue is going to be fixed. But on the whole, there are also concerns that state-run pharmacies are shutting down, and this is a source of concern. And that means that medicines at lower prices, at subsidized prices, are not being available. But I can tell you that even in private pharmacies, there have to be subsidized medicines available, and they have to be available at fixed prices. And this is very important. I would like to ask the competent units of the healthcare ministry to follow that closely and to keep tabs on that. Moreover, we have to pay greater attention to developing pharmacy networks through the so-called mobile pharmacies. This is a practice that is becoming increasingly widespread across the provinces. There are also other spots where certain medicines can be made available and can be sold. This solves part of the problem. And of course, we can do that through the Post of Russia. So on the whole, we have an understanding of how to address these issues, but we have to do that, translate those theories into practice, and in your particular case, I think we will be able to fix that pretty quickly. Let's work with the audience. SSSR, and then TF1. First, the person with the placard SSSR and then Kulik with TF1. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Can I give a present to you? And then a couple of questions. Well, just explain to us what this is, and we'll take that from you afterwards. This is a book which is called Heart of Asia. It's 126 Russian poets who have been praising Persia and Tajikistan. And, you know, there is a dedication here to you, starting from Zhukovsky, 1843 and until present days. This is an anthology of best poems, Russian poets who have been praising Persia and Tajikistan. You love that, I know that.
I have a next question. Please, Mr. President, tell me, you really appreciate Marhayan poetry. We are descendants, those people in Tajikistan, Persia, were descendants of Marhayan. Could we ask you, Mr. President, of creating a monument to honor these great scientists, or create a center in the name of Marhayan? This is a good idea. Thank you very much. We will think about this. Thank you for this insight, as it is used to say. TF1, please. Our French colleagues, please. Please, could you repeat the name of the person? And who is that? I have never heard about him. Who is that? You know, I know nothing about this case. This is the first time I hear it, but I promise you that I will try to find out information about this, and if there is any chance to solve this issue in a positive way. If Russian legislation allows to do that, we'll take all the necessary efforts to do that. But I cannot give you any specifics because I don't know anything about this, but I will get information about this, and I promise you that. Please, let's continue. I hear someone with a mobile screen. Please, introduce yourself. Hello, Mr. President. My name is Valentin Petukhov. I'm a techno blogger. I am speaking to my audience for 15 years about Russian and foreign technologies. I represent many people because many people follow my networks. We're working actively on input substitution, the creation of the technological sovereignty of our country. One of the most meaningful events this year was the introduction of national MAX messenger. There is a market of messengers, and there are many messengers that are being used by people. So my question is the following one. The creation of the national messenger, was that important and was that necessary? Can MAX messenger truly be competitive comparing to other messengers? And what do you think about such competitions? As a blogger, I would like to ask you to follow my channel in MAX on technologies. I know that you know a lot in this topic, and I have remembered that today is my father's birthday, the 19th of December. I would like to use this opportunity to congratulate all the people that have a birthday today. There are hundreds of people, and we echo your congratulations to your father. As for the Max Messenger and the competition, we always need competition. I'm sure that there will be competition. As for the Telegram and other messengers, there is just one issue: complying with the Russian legislation. The problem of these messaging applications is that the leadership of the countries where they created were introducing restrictions, not allowing them to comply with our legislation. This led to the slowdown of such applications. Well, you know it. I'm sure that Max is also going to be competitors. Was it necessary? Of course it was. I would like to point out that in general we had all the technological instruments apart from a messaging application, and it is truly important that Russia has reached a full technological sovereignty. Russia is one of the 3 countries that has such sovereignty. First is US, then China, and now it is Russia. Besides, there are several services that can be provided to our citizens through Max national system. Such services could not be provided using foreign systems. First of all, due to security reasons. This is a necessary step, and I agree with you that there should be competitions. We have received many questions about healthcare through Max application, and many of the issues were solved even before the direct line. Around 500,000 questions were received from Max application, many from the youth and the children. When in Ulyanovsk we live almost in the 19th century, when your functionaries are going to listen to you and listen to the people, please, could you take a note of this? We need to understand what is this about. These are text messages. We should stop speaking about Ukraine. We should solve our own problems, speak about our own problems. I absolutely agree with you. Well, there are several videos from the youth and from children. Mr. President, hello. My name is Daniil, and I'm at the International Literature Forum. And there are many adults, and I would like to ask you about the trend of books being read by the youth and by children. Usually kids prefer very short videos. What should we do about that? Is there a book that, according to you, every Russian citizen should read? Thank you. Unfortunately, the reduction in the reading of books is the problem all over the world. Some time ago, we were proud that the USSR was the country where people read the most. Right now, there are many people that read books. But unfortunately, as I already said, all over the world, the number of people that read books is reducing. What should we do about that? First of all, it depends on school, on family, parents. We need to pay more attention in this regard to children. We need to maintain competition with tablets and the modern technological means. I'm speaking about parents and maintaining this competition with these technological means. because this is very accessible and this is very interesting, and we need to find a way to make books interesting for children. If we are creative about this, it is possible, even if it's complex. I've already mentioned it once, but I would like to say once again. I've spoken to a priest, and I asked him, when people die, what they say mostly. You know what was the answer? They say that they paid not enough attention to children. I don't want to personify anything. It's nothing specific. This is not a secret. But this was the overall message, and regards everything: education, providing some guiding principles, values. This young boy asked me about a book that everyone should read. Well, the world literature, Russian literature, classics, modern literature. There are many topics to be discussed that are very useful. But the main thing is that the book should create the conscience, the idea of the world. But it's very hard for me to name a specific book. Another question that we received through Max from Neatulina Diana. What are your working hours? What is the plate of your car? Actually, I don't know if there is a plaque. Actually, I just take it and go somewhere. As for the working hours, well, I keep late hours, and sometimes it's getting even later and later. Well, I'm not going to say because it is the violation of our labor code. And if this is not correct, it's you need to be fit, you need to go to bed on time. And I call everyone to such a regime of work. A question from Victoria. It's to you and to Pavel. Let's watch it. Mr. President, hello. My name is Victoria. I really find it really great that what Pavel Zarubin does. When Pavel will go to pension, I will take over, and please be the president till the time, and I will work with you and cover your work. I would like to congratulate you on the new year and wish you good health and always make right decisions. Victoria, thank you very much. I congratulate you on New Year as well, and I wish you all the best, success in school, and wish you reliable friends by your side. Well, let's keep Pavel for some time. He's quite a young man. I'll ask Pavel, I'm sure he will agree, to take you for training. I'm sure he can do a lot of good things. He's quite young, and when I will go in a well-deserved rest and you will be trained by Pavel, it will help you to become a journalist and to university, and you will work together with Pavel even at the federal level. This is what we're truly going to do. But still, I'm not a pensioner right now. I'll keep asking questions. So what is really important for every one of us? Recently, you have spoken about opportunities and the threats of the artificial intelligence. You can solve any task without even thinking and using your mind. Another message from Max Messenger. What can be the balance between the modern technologies and the tasks of developing intelligence in children? Please, we'll be grateful for your answer. And please come for the 1st September of 2026 to the opening of our school. this is a relevant issue, very complex regarding the problem itself. There is a great volume of information. There are new instruments of solving tasks today. You can use the capacities of artificial intelligence. In fact, a danger appears that teenagers, students, will not try to find the decisions themselves. But as Pavel said, they will just press a button and receive the necessary answer. This is a complex task. So it will depend on the organization of the education process in schools and in universities and all the educational institutions. It means this is how we should organize the education process, so that all of this was done and the tasks were solved at schools, in classrooms. So the tasks were posed in classroom before the students and pupils, and they were solved by a specific student or pupil, so that they need to use their brain, so that they would think, so that the development of new technologies would make that part of our society, part of our population would be thinking about what they're doing, and the other part would follow a very simple path, would use technologies, press correct buttons, but would degrade from the intellectual point of view. This is something that we should avoid, and this is the task of the education system, as well as the task for families. Well, I have nothing to add to that. Let's return to the audience. Spas, please. Well, forgive me, but it's very important for us. Spas TV channel, thank you for recognizing the Satanist movement as an extremist one. There are still occult services, esoterics that are provided in our country. You can see them in social networks, in books. There are tarot cards that are being sold in shops. And last year, people spent more than 2.3 trillion rubles on such services. The Spas TV channel made a movie about the magicians and sorcerers. When we spoke about many true stories and about this business, but still people keep going to sorcerers. Is it possible to introduce a ban on magical and occult advertisement that contradict your decree on the preservation of our traditions and values and the decision of the Supreme Court on the prohibition of the Satanist movement? As for the legislation, the decisions of the Supreme Court, on the Constitution Court, everyone must follow them. I will have a look at it without any doubt, and I will instruct the relevant agencies to follow this up closely to avoid the violations at the highest legislative level and the level of the court decisions. I truly agree with you. Satanism and occult services, sorceries, this is nonsense. That is something that confuses people, brings them to darkness, and affects them greatly, affects their psyche, their morale, and we need to fight against it, but do it carefully without violating human rights. Your colleagues have mentioned it as well. We shouldn't be excessive about these restrictions. We need an analysis and timely decisions. This is what we're going to do together with you, the representatives of the media, like your media, the representatives of our traditional religions, as well as with the Russian Orthodox Church?
We haven't taken lots of questions from this sector. I can see auto radio. Nadezhda Romantseva, auto radio. Mr. Putin, a question to you. It's considered to believe that the generation of 90s was lost for the nation. What about the current generation? Do you feel the support coming from the young ones? You know, I cannot agree with the statement that this was a lost generation for this country. You know, the issue of fathers and sons is an eternal one. And, you know, the well-known novel by Turgenev titled Sons and Fathers, Fathers and Sons. And at all times, everybody keeps saying that, well, when we were young and in our days, in the days of our youth, things were different, etc. You know, after I graduated from the university, I enrolled on the special services. I was recruited by special services, and I joined the external intelligence service of the USSR. So the verification of the aptness of recruits, whether they were able to work in an intelligence service. One of the tests there was putting people in dangerous, risky situations, stressful situations, so that they can manifest themselves. Well, in a critical situation, people manifest and show their true worth and face. And now we live in the context of a special military operation. We have 700,000 people in the fighting area, mostly young ones. Many of them are from that generation of 1990s. How are they showing their face and showing themselves? Naran, have you an idea about how these young ones show themselves? Pass the mic. Well, these are the children of 1990s, and they're heroes. They are the backbone, and you can take them as a model. So this is the answer with respect to the young generation. Yesterday we analyzed the huge array of inputs that we received in the view to the call-in, and lots of questions were submitted by young ones, which means that they are more active. They have a more active position than previous generations. And I can see a person in a grey sweater. You don't have any note or sign. Good afternoon. Andrei Belov, Ulyanovsk, Media 73.RU. The question is about transportation, aviation and public transport. Next year, Aviastar factory turns 50 years. It turned out AN-124 Ruslan jumbo jets, and now it works on a new contemporary make of airplane. Do we need actually, to your mind, a modern cargo aircraft similar to Ruslan? And the second part of my question is about the public transport. For Ulyanovsk, it's a huge problem, and we discussed this issue with Governor Ruskich. Will there be any specific support for Ulyanovsk's public transport system and procurement with the help of the federal government? And actually, we have a program in place to provide for the procurement of public transport for different regions. And that was always viewed also inter alia as a way of supporting our automobile industry. As regards Ulyanovsk, we'll discuss that with the governor. Discussing what the most acute things are. I cannot answer this question right now, but we will discuss that with the governor, rest assured, and if need be, we will provide necessary support. As regards Aviastar aircraft construction factory, this is a very relevant and acute issue, quite important for us, and we have a very good and long-standing tradition of aircraft construction, both in the military sector and civilian aircraft. Well, historically, our civil aviation and aircraft manufacturing was always a follow-up to the defense hardware and defense equipment and aircraft. And the performance of these aircraft is different, and the consumption of fuel, etc. Their parameters differ, but we always took pride in our Tupolev, Yakovlev, and Ilyushin makes. But originally these were primarily and initially military machines. And what we need now, for sure, is our state-of-the-art, modern, homemade aircraft. And the growth of air tickets prices is due to the shortage of the number of aircraft that we have. And those international manufacturers that used to supply aircraft to us decided to quit the cooperation because of some political reasons. And that is bad for them because it subverts their reputation. But this is good for us because it makes us be on our own, work harder, and take advantage of the capability of our market. And, you know, in the past, I spoke with the incumbent deputy prime minister who headed Aeroflot in the past, and I told him that it was necessary to buy more domestically made aircraft than import airplanes. And actually, now we have come up with MS-21 that we're rolling out. It is a very good machine, perfectly suitable for international markets. And Superjet 100 also is another make that we have fully localized. And we need our own Russia-made regional aircraft too. You asked whether we need those jumbo jets similar to Ruslan. Yes, we do. Il-76 will be modernized where we need that, and this is high-tech manufacturing requiring very long production chains and level of cooperation to be profound enough. There are some additional pending issues to be resolved, but we will handle that, and definitely wish Aerostar all the best, and we will assist this enterprise. Mr. President, we are approaching the 4 hours threshold. Let's give the floor to Mr. Peskov. We are now nearing the 4 hours of live broadcast, and it's kind of record-setting time. So I suggest we should round off and wind up. There'll be just a set of quick-fire questions, just a quick-fire one. In hundreds of years, school children will study this time, this epoch. What would you place in the time capsule for that to describe or depict our era, to stand for this era? Well, I think that all of us think about the future of their children and grandchildren and the future of our country. I also do. I know what I should be telling. Probably several things in a row. Well, I'll try my best. We'll take a pen and we jot down us living in Russia in this incessant, infinite flux of time in the 20th and the 21st century, perceived everything done by our predecessors with gratitude, by our ancestors with gratitude. We lived as everybody at all times with our routine needs, but we were not at a standstill. We made headway, we struggled, we worked, we fought, and we tried to resolve the issues that our time, our epochs, set forth ahead of us, in front of us. And we thought about our time and about future and about you. And if you are holding our message right now, that means that you also feel yourselves being part of our joint, shared, infinite flux of time, our common shared flux of time. And you are aware of the connection of times, and this is very important. Congratulations. That means that we also, as we worked and struggled, did not live our lives in vain, and we succeeded in many respects, and we wish you to be blessed with luck always and be happy. And your kids and grandchildren and grandchildren be proud of you as we are proud of our fathers, grandfathers and grandfathers. Full stop. Mr. President, are you collecting information or material for future memoirs, as other world leaders know? I just think that one should keep working, because memoirs would assess those who write them. If people consider it appropriate, let them assess me and my work and the work of my team and all the people that are behind me. You've been telling about the achievements of the country. What about your personal achievements? My personal achievements are inseparable from the achievements of this country. This is what I live by. I work day and night. Have you ever, once in a lifetime, sent a message via messenger? Have you done a video circle and sent it to your nearest and dearest? No, never. So I saw your flat at Kremlin's. It's quite bad. An empty fridge, just one Razhenka dairy drink. Where is coziness? You know, all that was designed by the previous head of operations unit under President Yeltsin, and no repair has happened since. Actually, I think, well, we should ask Mr. Borodin. That was done under the standards of maintenance and operations. So that was designed to provide opportunity for rest and recreation in the daytime. I doubt President Yeltsin spent nights there, but I live there. This is just the coincidence of circumstances. I'm satisfied with everything. This is first thing, and secondly, comfort and coziness are created by people. So when my family members appear there, I just feel cozy. Do you have any professional deformations or distortions? Professional distortions? Well, yes, as any other man, fully submerged in the work. Which moment or development of this year you memorize in the first place, and which would you like to forget? Well, with respect to which I memorize in the first place and recall in the first place, it is very hard to say, but I think that the New Year that we celebrated last time happened 2 to 3 weeks ago, and this is not an overstatement. Everything is so compressed, and we have had many positive developments since then. And at the Defense Ministry college meeting, I spoke about the development of our armed forces that have become the most combat efficient in the world, given the advances in the strategic arms that we have had. And these are major landmarks in the life of our country, not the armed forces alone. And we have been able to preserve the resilience of our economy, and many decisions were made to this effect. And these are positive developments, without a doubt. And speaking about what I'd like to forget, well, I have my own view on that. If you want to forget something, that means that there was a failure, or you did something in a bad way, and you should not forget that. You should rectify your mistakes and correct your mistakes and make conclusions. Which trait of your character you dislike? Is there one? Well, listen. Oh, people just wonder. I'll try to respond. Well, my life is, absolutely conspicuous in front of the cameras, and speaking what I like and what I dislike in myself would give rise to rumors and idle prattle. And do have a true faithful friend. What is true friendship? It's a matter of notions. In the first instance, true friendship means mercilessness. And in my situation, some people around me are tempted to try to lay their hand on that, and I can state with a firm that those people whom I believe to be my friends, and I have such people, I believe in a very reserved way, and I'm not ashamed of them. What motivates you and makes you move forward, and what keeps you in high spirits? What motivates me and makes me move on, it's about the trust of people. And when I hear some things, well, some of the things sound in a jarring way, and others are inspiring, and they are motivating. The confidence and faith in the future of Russia, which is what prevents me from losing heart. What is the best thing for a boy aged 13? Excel at studies, or love of fatherland or motherland, or anything else? Well, he should love his mother, first of all. And this is not an irony. I once again would turn to Naram. He needn't speak up. I will say everything for him. We had a discussion the day before yesterday when I invited him to come to the Kremlin, and previously when he had made a report, I had asked colleagues to ask what outstanding issues are there, including some routine things and day-to-day life-related things, and we talked with him. And Naran may forgive me. I think he'll forgive me. I just asked him, what would you like? And he responded, my mum is elderly and she has some health conditions and problems. Will you please help my mother? And such an attitude towards one's mother is not merely an attitude of one person to another person. It's a mindset, a mentality. So people with this attitude become heroes of Russia.
And what about love at first sight? Does such a thing exist? I think it does. Where does motherland start from? For you personally? For me personally? Well, it starts with my parents. Man certainly needs to believe in something. What do you believe in? And God Almighty, who is with us, and who'll never forsake Russia. The number of messages has exceeded 3 million, which is unprecedented. So the last question. What will Russia look like in 200 years? Will it exist even? Well, 200 years. Well, I don't know how it happened, but you've asked me to project a message hundreds of years into the future, which is very hard to forecast because given the growing technological component, given the increased influence of AI, given our accomplishments in genetics and biotechnologies, it's impossible to forecast how human consciousness is going to evolve, whether borders will be there in future, hundreds of years hence. So it's kind of a message from us to our descendants. Well, I try to do that based on how things stand right now, but as for what is going to happen in 200, 200 years ago, well, 200 years, that's not that long because the Bolshoi Theater is celebrating its 250th anniversary. So for Russia, 200 years is not that big of a time stretch. I'm hopeful that the country will be highly educated. And this high level of education of our citizens is going to serve as a foundation for high technological development. With the help of these technologies, the country will be capable to address all the tasks in front of us, be that in economy, in healthcare, social policies. It'll be living in peace, prosperity, having built ties with other countries on the basis of mutual respect between itself and its partners and all the actors of international environment. Thank you. Well, yes, just a moment. I promise this is not the end. Well, please, please. No noise, please. Let's go sector by sector. Ichu, what's that? What's that about? Mr. President, my name is Anna Rigin. I'm from Yakutia. Ichu is translated from Yakutian as it's cold. We know that Yakutia is a cold place, but we have very warm hearts, and you know that better than anyone. So my question to you is as follows, Mr. President. I'm terribly nervous. I've been waiting for this chance to ask my question. In the Arctic, in Yakutia, the electricity tariff for hospitals, schools, and other social facilities has grown 10 times over the last 4 years, from 5 to 50 rubles per kilowatt hour, which is an enormous burden given the fact that the efficiency is not growing at all. I'm terribly. No, no, no. Take it easy. Go ahead. But unfortunately, there's a high level of incidents, and you know that in the Arctic and the North, an accident is almost a catastrophe. So is it possible to add the special allowance to us, which used to be in place in the Russian High North and the Far East? You've been to Yakutia. Maybe you'll be in Yakutia in winter. And with due respect, we'd like to interview you. And if you come to see us, I'll be happy to be the one interviewing you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your high words of appreciation, for the words of thanks to the Kremlin pool. Yes, as for us, the special allowance, we'll take that into account. Your economy is growing. It requires an increasing volume of electricity at competitive prices. The coal-based generation is developing, but other sources can be contemplated as well. And we are doing the work already in settlements and cities where the requisite infrastructure has to be set up, both social infrastructure and economic infrastructure. I'm not going to go into detail, but we know the problem, and we'll certainly look into that. We'll work on green sources of energy without forgetting, however, either gas-based generation or oil-based generation. Another, fuel oil, of course, is not that efficient as a source of energy, but we'll certainly use different sources of energy, and will also increase the capacity of the grid. We'll certainly keep Yakutia in mind, because Yakutia is the treasure trove of mineral wealth, which still waits its hour to be extracted. Rest assured. And I've jotted it down. We'll look into that. Artificial intelligence. I think that's relevant. Go ahead, please. Good afternoon, Mr. President. 360 TV channel, Regina Orekova. You've spoken about AI today, and you said it will not allow Russia's dependence on foreign neural networks. Does it mean that ChatGPT and other foreign neural networks are going to be prohibited? Is there going to be a special type of regulation in the field? And second question, if you'll allow that, you said that love at first sight exists. Mr. President, are you in love? Yes, I am. That's the answer to the second part of your question. Whereas the first part of your question is concerned, I can tell you that we're not going to prohibit anything. There is Russian legislation. If there are certain violations of the legislation, then restrictions are put in place, but we're not going to introduce any bans or anything like that. Tomsk, please. Yes, please, go ahead. Mr. President, good afternoon. Tomsk, Vremya, Gulnara, Motibareva. Tomsk is Russia's youth capital. I'd like to use this time on air. Those who have not yet voted on our city, please vote, because every seventh person who lives in Tomsk is a student. So a round of applause for Tomsk, please. Tomsk is indeed a city of students. Have you voted, Mr. President, if that's no secret? For sure, will do. Well, we'll be hopeful. Well, even though we've got lots of young people, still we are lacking in blue collars, we are lacking in seamstresses, drivers, and a number of other blue-collar jobs. Mr. President, is the government doing anything to rebuild the prestige of blue-collar work? And what about AI? Maybe we don't need seamstresses or drivers because AI is going to supplant those. Well, I'm offended by your question, but because I think we are working systemically on preparing highly qualified workers, and this is done in a systemic fashion. The worker profession is becoming very prestigious. It's becoming increasingly complicated and sophisticated, and that's why you can get that in vocational training. We've got also specialized education. We are going to hold competitions. We'll increase the quality of education. We will fuse internship with education. We'll try to engage businesses. Incidentally, they are the ones who are most interested in young professionals coming to work for them, and they've jumped on this bandwagon a long time ago, trying to attract young professionals. There's a whole set of measures, a whole range of those, and we'll only expand them. Unfortunately, we're getting breaking news. This is very important for one of those who is here. TASS is reporting that the girlfriend of Kirill Bazhenev has agreed to your proposal. She'll marry you. Well, Kirill has been asking the question about the material component of life. Well, of course, it's important. It's the right thing to do for the gentleman. He is the one who's supposed to contribute to addressing these material. Well, you know, we'll take a hat and we'll do some collection, well, at least for your wedding. Another Ukraine. There's another question. Yes, we've covered Ukraine, but we have not yet covered another Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Ukraine. Network media, another Ukraine. This is a network movement. Of course, my question is about Ukraine because it applies directly to our motherland, Russia. Trump has said that Zelensky is using war in order to avoid holding elections. And in response to that, Zelensky said he is ready to hold elections in 60 or 90 days, which is cynical lies, because Zelensky has destroyed his country. He decided to choose arbitrariness and violence over democracy. Mr. President, you said that a referendum has to be held on de jure recognition of new territories in Ukraine as per Ukrainian constitution. How can a referendum be held in a country where a gang has usurped the power, destroying democracy and everything else? Because for a referendum to be held, first constitutional order has to be re-established. The ban on 18 parties has to be lifted. A law has to be introduced on on stopping the prosecution of those who spoke against the coup d'etat, because the amnesty was adopted after 2014, which basically pardoned those who were the ones initiating the coup d'etat and even the violence they employed for their own self-interest. Electoral law has to be re-established as well, because half of Ukrainian population has fled from Zelensky. That's 18 million people, according to the estimates. Where are they supposed to vote? Sanctions have to be lifted against Ukrainian citizens, and the revocation of citizens against those who did not agree to the neo-Nazi policy pursued by the regime. Media have to resume their activity after having been banned before. What about your question? Yes, getting there. Without these measures, a referendum would only mean legitimizing the criminal regime, basically election without election. Understandably, the criminal regime of Zelensky, with the support of the West, is not going to agree to that. In March this year, you proposed a way out, interim governance in Ukraine under the aegis of the UN, Russia, the US, and European countries, which would create the necessary environment for holding democratic elections. So my question is as follows. Do you stick to that proposal you came up with on temporary governance in Ukraine, international governance? And if no environment is created for these elections, will you recognize the legitimacy of these elections? Well, this is not a question. This is more of a political statement. I'll try to be brief. As far as elections in Ukraine are concerned, as far as international temporary governance is concerned, well, yes, I did suggest that. But it was only a hypothetical. And if the will were there on the side of the Western countries, then probably, given the corruption scandals, it could be a thing to be considered. But as far as elections go, we hear statements from the heads of the regime. They insist that the Western countries and the US, and allegedly they are ready for those elections. Well, Western countries have to ensure security. That means they want a ceasefire. I would like to draw your attention to the following. Well, Russia did hold elections, both presidential elections, municipal elections, and regional elections. In September, Russia held another round of elections. But who ensured security during those elections? Quite the contrary. There were attempts to sabotage those elections with a view to dismantling our internal unity. There were strikes against poll stations. You know, I think that was in Donetsk, People's Republic. You know, people were queuing at the poll station. A shelling started. People went to the shelters, and once the shelling was over, they came back and they cast their ballot. We never demanded anything. We just did what we thought was right. And I think the current representatives of the Kiev regime could do the same if they truly wanted that. However, if they want to use the elections solely to put an end to Russia's advancement on the battlefield, then they are wrong. That said, I'm going to say something which is probably going to sound surprising. We are willing to think about how to ensure security during elections in Ukraine. Well, we could refrain from strikes in the depths of Ukrainian territory on election day. But there is one nuance which we cannot circumvent, namely, in the territory of Russia, there are millions of Ukrainian citizens living from 5 million to 10 million, and they are entitled to vote. And if elections were to be held, we have the right to demand that those who organize these elections should provide the right to cast their ballot to those Ukrainians who are currently residing in the territory of the Russian Federation. There are other nuances that have to be studied laboriously, but this is no idle matter. I do agree that the authorities in Ukraine sooner or later have to become legitimate, and that is impossible without elections. Let's move to this sector, Siberia. Mr. President, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Denis Shaluta. I'm a blogger from Siberia. I've got a TG channel. I cover social, economic news and the development of Siberia. Since October this year, there are rumors circulating around the establishment of a cluster for deep processing of rare earths and non-ferrous metals. Do you think this is the best solution to provide our economy with critical metals and to relaunch Russia's industrialization? Because the prospects are enormous, they're huge. There is a will at the level of the Russian government to complete this project. This is a very interesting project. And, you know, right along the line, these plans were formulated back during the Soviet times. This region is very promising in that it has almost 360 sunny days. Even though it's in Siberia, the climate is very good. And there are huge opportunities to extract minerals and process them. You know, the logistics is very good. Certainly, this cannot be addressed the way it used to be during the Soviet times, you know, through Gosplan and through allocating the requisite budgetary resources. That has to be done via modern means.
We need to make companies interested so that they would invest and the state would provide the necessary support. In general, such work in order to implement projects on this promising land is underway. I think it is very promising. We are finding investors, potential companies that could invest, and we need to support them, provide the necessary benefits and services, create logistics as well as the sources for power generation, so on and so forth. I'm not going to give the whole list because this could be a large-scale historical task. We will keep working on it without any doubt. Mail, please. Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask a question. Mr. President, you have said repeatedly, you've reminded that the Russian culture is the backbone I'm sorry about that. Just don't worry. Well, you say that this is the basis for the development of society. It's important to preserve historical memory and the cultural diversity of Russian peoples. What are the cultural projects and initiatives priority for you personally? And will Russia protect the Russian-speaking people abroad? You spoke about prioritizing. Yes, I spoke about prioritizing the cultural projects, and will Russia protect Russian-speaking people and the Russian language abroad? And the question is, will there be created a program in Russia, a program for people that will be specializing on fighting information war being waged against us by the West? Are we going to create a specialty that will be program for specialists concerning information wars? The next question is about the prestige of the work of teachers. Well, regarding the protection of our compatriots abroad, of course we'll work on that, and we're working on it. We'll keep doing that. What I would like to draw attention to is what we're going to do about that. We need to do everything not to make the situation of our compatriots even worse. So we need to be very careful without using aggressive means. As for training information wars experts, well, it's not really combinable. As for the war experts, we have such. We'll keep training them, given that this is the part of improving armed forces. As for the work with the compatriots in total, this work is underway. We'll continue it. We need to introduce modern instruments so that they would be effective, so that they would be accessible for the consumers. As for the separate, meaningful cultural projects, there are many of them. I would not like to give any specific projects because it creates an unhealthy competition, meaning that we support one projects and do not support the others. But there are such projects, and we will support them. You can be sure of that. Vesem Skorist, please. Hello. It was the poster was held by a young man because I'm really was tired. I'm from Tatarstan Republic. My colleague from Kazan has already asked a question. Thank you very much for M12. It's really easy to travel from Moscow to Kazan with children, with family, but we always want something more. Well, you understand by my poster, there is a high-speed highway. Is there any chance that our children would use it? Are you speaking about the high-speed railway? Yes. Yes, we are already working on design. For instance, St. Petersburg-Moscow railway, and we're also going to implement the Moscow-Kazan project. Thank you very much for our joint work. Thank you.